Session layer. It is located on the OSI model. Some of the objectives I'm going to talk about is how the session layer is used, what certain protocols it uses, and some of the services it performs, like authentication, permissions, session restoration, and I'll summarize everything at the end. So session layer is the fifth layer on OSI model, starting from the bottom, and it is located between the presentation and transport layers. Also, session layer is sometimes called the port layer. Some of the functions that session layer has is that it opens and closes connections between nodes upon a request. And it also manages the connections, monitoring the channel for transition. And it does not require knowledge to the exact application and how it works. All it cares about is if data is present and being passed along the channel. Functions, some more functions of the session layer is it can do the web, it manages the web conferencing and live broadcasting. So let's say you wanted to watch a video, which you would have to stream from a website, and the session layer could receive the signal from the presentation layer to establish connection, let's say on port 80, the HTTP. And once the channel is opened, the session layer signals to the transport layer, and then waits for the next signal. And during the connection process, for the video stream, the session layer establishes certain speed of the connection by doing the three-way handshake. And speed could be the half duplexing or the full duplexing. And it also checks for special protocols that need it, like let's say real-time transport control and so on. And depending on the application, the session layer has several protocols in its bank to choose from. And once the communication was complete or was on for a certain amount of time, the session just simply terminates the connection. Some of the protocols that are used in a session layer are ADSP, ASP, the H245, which is the call control protocol for the multimedia connection. There's the ISO-SP, ISNS, L2F, the layer 2 forwarding protocol, L2TP, which is the level 2 tunneling protocol, NetBIOS, SCP, SSH, the secure shell, and PAP. PAP is the password authentication protocol, which is used very often in a session layer. Also, there's the RPC, RTCP, real-time transport protocol, and a ZIP. There's also a few other protocols that session layer uses, but they aren't used as often as the ones I listed before. So, session authentication. Connections. Some connections require passwords to establish communication or to open a channel. And a session layer can perform this authentication process by the logins you do. And if authentication is not recognized, the connection is not established, it simply is dropped and terminated. Some of the permissions and restoration of the session layer does is the permissions can be verified on a session layer, and they act same as authentication. And the session layer is fault tolerant. And during the session layer, data can be passed from present amount of time, and the session itself would be dropped because the session layer, let's say, has not received a request from the presentation layer. But then it's going to reopen, or in other words, refresh the session. It does this by establishing checkpoints within a session to reestablish the connection. So let's say you wanted to download a file from some website, and for some reason the internet went off, or saying the connection was terminated for, I don't know, cable, somebody cut the cable. And by having these checkpoints, it would allow you to resume the download. So let's say you left off downloading file on 50%, and then you fix the internet, and you have the internet back on, then it will resume the download again from 50% on. And this is done by using the checkpoints. So to summarize everything that we've talked about, is that session layer is layer 5 on OSI model, and it performs the following tasks. First, it starts and ends sessions on the presentation layer's request and passes the connection information to the transport layer. It also establishes the right ports and confirms the language to be used or the protocols is the language that we've talked about before. And it uses a three-way handshake to establish the connection. The session layer performs authentication, meaning that if you're a server and want to log in into client, using an FTP. It's going to be the P8P protocol in the session layer. It also verifies the permission and recovers the session by using the checkpoint method.